Welcome to the Baynet's Countdown to November, a series of interviews with the candidates in the November 4th general election. I'm Dick Myers, and with me today for this segment is Shane Mattingly, who's the Democratic candidate for St. Mary's County State's Attorney. Mattingly's opponent is Republican incumbent Rick Fritz.
Dick, really great to be here. Fantastic.
Glad to have you. People don't like change. People resist change, so why should they change in your race?
Well,
Because Rick has been state's attorney 4 terms?
4 terms. Well, I would disagree with the premise, number one. I think this is an election where people are really looking for some sort of change. There's a general dissatisfaction, not only with this particular office, but with a lot of different offices. So, number one, I would respectfully disagree with that premise.
I was speaking more in terms of their life in general, people, but sometimes.
Yeah, sure, people are hesitant to change, and I realize that any time you're running against any incumbent, there has to be at least a small leap of faith by the electorate to go with the new man or woman who's looking to replace the incumbent. But our problems are serious, Dick. We have problems with heroin addiction, domestic violence, elderly abuse and financial fraud, and our veterans aren't getting the sort of service they need from our government. These are issues that I've gone from Golden Beach down to Scotland in St. Mary's County, and people all across the county are concerned about these things and want a candidate and want a government that deal with these type of issues.
So what can a state's attorney do about those issues?
Well, on the 4 things I mentioned, with regard to heroin, the heroin addiction problem we have, we really haven't seen any sort of mention by Mr. Fritz about that there even is a heroin problem. Very serious. We have our friends, our neighbors, our children dying of this scourge. And what we really need to do is to get a unified voice. You can't just incarcerate your way out of an addiction problem. Certainly job one of any state's attorney is to incarcerate bad people, violent people, malicious people. But there's also a second part to it. The state's attorney's office primarily, historically, has been about the exercise of power. Who do we charge, and who do we seek to incarcerate for long periods of time? It's my view that there's also a second untapped part of that job, and that's not just the exercise of power, but it's the power of possibility. What would St. Mary's County be like if we got ahead of our heroin problem? What would St. Mary's County be like if we actually respected and protected victims of domestic violence? What would St. Mary's County be like if we actually got veterans who come home from overseas with serious problems? What would their lives be like if the state's attorney helped them get back on track? And what would it be like if we protected our senior citizens from people looking to scam them out of their money? Not only do you change the lives of those people, but you make their family lives better, and therefore their future generations' lives better. And I think that's something that's been lacking in the current administration. It's a matter of vision, and it's a matter of leadership, and I don't see that in Mr. Fritz on those particular issues.
St. Mary's County has what's called an adult recovery court. It used to be the adult drug court.
Mm-hmm.
It's run by the court. Does the state's attorney's office give proper support to that to make it successful?
When that was started, I believe it was by Judge Kamenetz so many years ago. I know there was some hesitancy from the state's attorney about whether or not that would be a good idea or not. You can't have any sort of recovery court without the participation of the state's attorney's office. I have been disappointed, though, in that the Veterans Treatment Court that we proposed, which is based on the drug court model, Mr. Fritz recently said there's no need for that in St. Mary's County. There's not enough veterans in the system that would benefit from that. And that I'm just incredulous that he would have an opportunity to get behind this idea, which is being supported by the Maryland State Bar Association, and which we have veteran treatment court in 35 different states around the country. And just to say that our veterans who have these particular problems aren't deserving of that, I think is just mind-boggling.
One of your campaign policies deals with domestic violence. What's being done and what more should be done out of the state's attorney's office?
Well, they do have an individual that deals with those particular types of cases. But Dick, I've been contacted by probably at least a dozen different victims of domestic violence who said their experience with the state's attorney's office has been lacking, to say the least. It's the feeling there that that it's just uneven. There is no rhyme or reason of what's prosecuted and what's not. There's a feeling that if you are friendly with the state's attorney or somehow connected with the state's attorney's office and you have a connection, that those offenders' cases are treated more leniently than other cases. So you need to be consistent, you need to be fair, you need to make sure that the offenders that come into the system get the appropriate help that they need. There's an intervention abuser program that's offered by Walden. You need to make those mandatory for everybody that comes in the system. We need to make sure that the victims of domestic violence know that they have a strong protector and advocate in the state's attorney's office. And I've just had too many of those victims come to me and say that's not so.
In St. Mary's County, does the success of the state depend on quality and qualifications of the assistant state's attorneys, and is that even or not so?
Well, you know, it's not for me to personally criticize or attack anyone, but of course, you're talking about an office that's just not about one attorney. You have a head person, and you also have approximately 9 or 10 other people that work with the head state's attorney. Like any good baseball team or any good sports team, you can't win by just having one good player. You have to have a team full of good players. So I think it's vitally important that everyone on the staff is on the same page and everyone is good at their job. Now, I've spoken with some of his staff members, his current staff members, approximately 5 of his current staff members, and I let them know I appreciate their work. I like how they do their work, and I've expressed a desire to them to stay once the election is over, and they seemed amenable to that. So one thing my opponent has put out there is that, you know, I'm going to go in there and fire everybody. Again, it's not so. I've said it on the record before, and I'll say it in front of you here today. It's important to have a sort of institutional memory. The state's attorney will go through, office will go through a brief reorganization, and we'll be up and running as soon as I'm sworn in.
How active would you be in court? Would you be a prosecutor or an administrator?
Well, you have to look at it almost like a CEO position, I believe. Okay, you need to make sure you hire good people, give them the framework of success, and make sure that they do the job the way they're supposed to do the job. But you also have to be out in the community, Dick. You have to reach out to different groups, whether it's other governmental agencies, civic organizations, religious organizations. You're sort of the face in a large degree of law enforcement in St. Mary's County. And you need to have a relationship with everybody, because justice is for everybody. It's not just for the select few. So I would certainly envision myself being out in the community quite a bit, probably more than the current state's attorney. But I would, in my 9 to 5 job, I would handle cases and handle dockets. But you just wouldn't see me being in the courtroom. You'd also see me out in the community.
Mr. Fritz has a tendency to handle the big cases, the murder cases. Would you kind of?
Well, does the CEO of Ford go down on the assembly line and handle the construction of the vehicle? Or, for example, a more maybe appropriate example locally is Sheriff Cameron out writing speeding tickets. No, of course not. We will handle a docket. You know, Rick is a fine trial attorney. I'm not taking away anything from him there. But my point is, I have a staff of people. You need to have an even workload, a fair workload. You will not just see me on high-profile cases. You will have other members of my staff doing so.
I should have asked this first. You can't assume in St. Mary's County that everybody knows you. With a name like Mattingly, you must be a St. Mary's County boy, but tell us a little bit about your background and experience.
Yes, guilty as charged, born and raised down here. I was born and raised on a farm just outside Leonardtown. My mom was a registered nurse. My dad was a telephone lineman. Dad did a little farming on the side. Went to school locally. I was probably one of those people when I turned 18, I said, I'm going away and never coming back. went away to college and law school, and also was very fortunate to intern in Parliament for a summer. And about the time I got through law school and passed the bar at about the age of 25, the idea of living in St. Mary's County really appealed to me. So I moved back down here. Within a couple years, started my own practice, and have never ever regretted that decision.
Now, you've never been a prosecutor, is that correct?
No, I've never been a full-time prosecutor. I've done some been appointed special prosecutor on some cases here and there, but only a handful of times.
So how does working on the other side make you a better prosecutor?
Well, a couple different reasons. Number one is you're working in the system every day, just like a prosecutor would. Number two is you're also looking at the case the same way a prosecutor would. Any good lawyer in the system, whether prosecutor or defense lawyer, looks at the case and goes, what are their strengths or weaknesses? Can the case be made beyond a reasonable doubt? It also gives me some, even though my brethren at the bar might not like this, you also learn some tricks of the trade. So as a prosecutor, you know those tricks. I mean, you're not going to be taken in by them. Being a defense lawyer, also you have to work hard. I mean, it's hard when you're going up against the state. It's given me a lot of good experience. It's taught me how to work hard, not take anything for granted. We would take that same work ethic into the office of the state's attorney.
Is this a political office? You're a Democrat, Rick's a Republican. Does it make any difference as the state's attorney?
Dick, I'll tell you what, I don't think anybody asks when you're in front of the judge, whether you're Democrat or Republican. Justice, the fair administration of justice, is not a partisan issue. And I've found that reflected in a lot of the questions that I've gotten out on the campaign trail. It's very, very rare that I get asked what party I'm in. People just want to make sure that it's fair for everybody.
Okay. You're out there campaigning every day for people that would like to help you. What's the best way to do it?
Best way to do it, you can contact me on my website, ShaneMattingly.com. I also am trying to do as much law work as possible up through Election Day. You can call me at my law office at 301-475-9101.
Okay. Do you know if there are any debates scheduled between you and your opponent?
You know, for some reason, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce, they've scheduled a lot of other debates, but didn't, for whatever reason, didn't schedule a debate with Rick and I. But here's the good thing, Dick. Rick's got a track record. People can find that out. They can go on the computer and find out what he's all about. People can go online and find out what my policies are. I tell you what, we have a very detailed policy platform. People don't have to wonder what I'm about. People don't have to wonder what I'm going to try and accomplish. So I would certainly advocate that people do the research, because it's an important position. It very well may be the most powerful position in St. Mary's County, and an informed voter is a good voter.
Good. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for joining.